I know you have family in Iran. I assume you're not able to talk to them at the moment. But what is the sense you are getting of the mood there at the moment?
Well, I mean, it's very concerning because obviously we haven't been able to be in touch with our families because not only has the internet been cut off, but also communications. And what is coming out via Starlink, for example, in dribs and drabs, is that there's been massacres taking place. The numbers are not clear, but if we look at certain footage that's come out, for example, in front of a forensic center, Karizak Forensic Center, there are piles and piles of bodies and trucks coming in with other bodies and families looking for their loved ones. We've heard from one doctor who works at an eye specialist unit that speaks of removing the eyes of 600 patients during this time. So we know what the Iranian regime does, and especially during a blackout, it is definitely trying to kill as many people as possible. It has a shoot to kill policy, and so it's worrying. But on the other hand, of course, we're all witness to the bravery of the Iranian people, the young generation. I think really this protests that we're seeing now is a continuation of the Women Life Freedom protests.
Yes. Is there a danger, however, that protesters are geared up for support coming from outside that never actually turns up? In other words, they're waiting for the cavalry. They're encouraged by Donald Trump to protest, but in the end, there's nobody standing alongside them.
I'm not sure how much people want foreign intervention. I think obviously in every society there's a pluralism of views. But I mean, from my perspective, I'm yet to see a situation where U.S. militarism has had a positive effect on the rights of people. I mean, obviously, if we're talking about oil and profits and geopolitics, there might be gains and losses for governments. But for civilians, for the people who have very clear demands for not only bread and life and
the simplest demands in many ways. Sir Simon, we heard there from John Brennan that he thought it was highly significant the Americans had pulled some troops out of bases near Iran, and that was a precursor to something happening. I gather that Britain is doing the same thing. So sort of the same question to you. Do you think we're on the edge of some kind of aggressive action?
I mean, there'll be a whole range of plans at the moment, and that'll cry us, are you planning to do something in Iran? The answer is, of course, we have a plan to do something. Are we planning to do it? It's still the jury maybe slightly out. There'll be a lot of nervousness about the consequences. I think Miriam's right. I think the idea that it could be portrayed as an attack on Persia, Iran, by a mix of the West and Israel, because they're co-joined in certain people's
big Satan,
propaganda.
Little Satan.
Absolutely right, and the British, of course, ourselves. It's very wise precautions. They're undoubtedly hardening. It's called setting the battlefield. The logistic inload will be there. I don't know if they've got a carrier group there. And there will be a huge range of options that will have been put in front of the president, from cyber to flooding the internet to Skylink coming in to, as you say, targeted assassination attacks on IRGC, or a combination of all.
Because, as we keep saying on this show, you can't really, as it were, impose or unleash democracy from above. You can't do it with fighter jets or missiles.
I've said that before. And one's got to be aware, and again, Miriam referred to the plurality of demands. It's quite a diverse place. The core of Iran, of course, is the Persian people, Farsi speaking, very conscious of a great imperial past. But there are Azeris there who have their own agendas with Azerbaijan, who've supported them up to now. There are the Kurds, there are the Baloch in the south, then the Bazaris, then the sort of peasantry out in the fields, then the young intellectuals, so it's a coalition. We saw it during the Arab Spring. Let's be very clear.
I was going to say,
be careful about simplifying it.
As I discussed with John Brennan earlier on as well, we're all kind of haunted by what happened in Iraq. In other words, the breakup of a society that had been relatively homogenous, and different tribal and religious and other divisions becoming very, very violent very quickly. Is there the same kind of danger in Iran, or is Iran so much majority Farsi, majority Persian that that's unlikely?
Well, Miriam would have a better view on that, but there is certainly a danger, I would have thought, Miriam.
I mean, I think there is a danger, but the reality is that you have a really strong movement in Iran of people who want secularism, who want women, life, freedom. This is a slogan that has captured the imagination of the world, and it is a slogan that it's a Kurdish slogan that originated in Rojava. And so this is a movement that has great potential, not just for Iran, but for the region. And I think the problem is that, of course, it's a danger to the Islamic regime of Iran, and that's why we're seeing this mass suppression. But also, I think intervention from above isn't going to support this movement in any way. And I think that needs to be very clear. There's many things that governments can do to support this movement, and that is not military attacks, but restricting the regime, and also diplomatically, politically, also cutting any sort of support militarily or otherwise that we've been seeing.
I think there's very much there are some enabling actions that would be very helpful, but the regime is using mercenaries, it's using Hezbollah, it's using Iraqi militia. I think it's terrified there'll be a break in the security system. Every person out there has a mother, a son, a daughter, a sister, whatever, connected to the regime. Huge amount of vested interest among the regime, but you can spot these cracks, and we have seen it under the Shah. These sort of things, and we were talking about the culture in Iran. Every 40 days, people come out to mourn, and that eventually was what absolutely wore down the Shah's security force.
Maybe the same thing will happen this time.
I think we could see certainly a sort of a re-emergence of that.
I can't quite understand. If you were back in the old job advising the MOD, Simon, I can't understand when people say, why don't we just prescribe or ban the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards? Politicians go a bit quiet and look a bit shifty and mutter. What is the real case against banning them?
I'm told by lawyers, and I suspect under Lord Hermer it will have been hammered in time and again, is that the IRGC is supposed to be a state organisation. We know it's not. It's a completely, that's a fabricated excuse. And I'm told in the British law we don't ban state organisations. America has a different view. I think the IRGC are quite clearly operating as an independent organisation, to an extent, some central direction, defending its own position. I would. I mean, we know what they've done in this country, but I sense legal sensitivities. But they're quite clearly and I think the great thing is if this regime can go, what a great advantage, not just for the people of Iran, but I would say the whole region. They've been awful.
Final word, Maryam. We're all waiting to see if this very, very brave protester is actually hanged, as the regime say he will be. What's the mood among Iranians in London and across Britain as they watch? I
mean, I think people are very concerned about the civilians there. They also want change, of course. They want, a society that is not a dictatorship, and there has been over 100 years of dictatorship in Iran. But I think what's clear is that there is a pluralism of opinion. Unfortunately, we have this attempt to impose a monarchy from above, and I think what many people feel is that we don't want any authoritarianism, either by divine rule or via inheritance. People in Iran need to choose. And there is this
normal,
huge
ordinary, decent democratic life. Maryam,
yes, thank
Simon,
you.
Thank you both very, very much indeed for coming here and talking to me.